Hmm.
we've come to accept, unfortunately, that many of these ideas, promises, manifesto, ideas that just don't come to pass.
Mm. So Rudy, here's what, right? Last week, I when I was here on one of these shows, I asked a pertinent question,
Mm-hmm.
and for some strange reason, nobody could not have answered. Right? I asked, in all the elections that we've ever had, has there ever been a manifesto that was published that was ever, ticked off or was ever done? Anything was ever done in it? You look like the man I could ask
So,
that.
to be fair, over the years, there are government policies and initiatives that featured in manifestos
Yeah.
that were implemented.
Tell me about five.
So I'll give you, okay, if we go all the way back,
Mm-hmm.
since the Eric Williams days,
All right, I wasn't wrong, but okay.
Dr. Williams promised education for all,
Right.
and that is what began the government school system.
Right, which is Gate.
Well,
Is it?
Gate was another one that came after he had, because remember, the Pandey administration had brought in dollar for dollar first,
Right.
which was part
okay.
of their manifesto.
Right.
Then the succeeding PNM administration, Manning, brought change dollar for dollar to Gate.
To Gate.
So
Right.
those are three examples in the education system.
Right.
Then under the Pandey administration, they spoke a lot about open government and transparency, and it was the Pandey government that brought in the Freedom of Information Act.
Right. Okay.
Then under the People's Partnership, you'd remember there was a manifesto promise about laptops for all children.
Right. I remember that.
And then more recently,
Mm-hmm.
the this current PNM administration, they would have promised that they would onboard the Dragon deal. And they got very close.
Wait. Stick up in there. Stick up in there. Rudy. We're talking about things that kicked off the ground. We're talking about things that came off, and we're talking about that.
As I said, the challenge is, Carrie, that what administrations have unfortunately focused on are more hygiene areas. What I mean by that is they will fix roads,
Yeah, but
they will upgrade or build new infrastructure. So every administration,
okay.
you will see an infrastructure project. So you just carry your mind back, right?
Right.
Most recently, we have a new hospital a few blocks away.
Right. Right.
Before that, you would
We
have
had
the
Point
towers.
Fortin as well.
Right.
Point
So
Fortin,
if you
right.
go
Arima,
right? So they focus a great amount of time and effort on the projects that people can see, and for obvious reasons, right?
Yes.
And then they spend a lot of effort on initiatives that touch people within their voting bases. So you will hear governments always, well, certain vehicles or
Right.
organizations speaking about ideas that you can easily correlate to their specific bases.
Right.
So each government has spoken from year dot about reimagining what started off as DUDE, URP, CPEP.
Right.
So you will hear people talk about grants,
Right.
subsidies.
Right.
So those are the other things that touch the larger population more directly, because people need to go to the hospital to get healthcare. They need to get access to housing. So,
Right.
so the lower socioeconomic bracket, they tend to make up a larger base of voters. The manifestos, if you track them, you will see that can see plus the hygiene transfers, the things that sort of give people implement or implement easily.
Right.
The all of them have spoken
That
about,
we are seeing currently.
like digitalization,
Right.
agricultural innovation, entrepreneurship, diversification, tourism, even education.
Mm-hmm.
Why have these promises? And if you compare most of the manifestos, the ideas are the
They're
same,
almost similar, you know.
because at a very granular level, we all know what we have to do.
Mm-hmm.
But the question you're really asking, I guess, them from getting to those ideas.
True, and what I must say, now the goodies looking good, eh? The goodies looking good, it's sounding good, and for the person who not really thinking about the political landscape and how things work, they would eat it up.
And
They would.
and again, you can't hold it against a certain segment of the population
Well, true. However,
because that is what they understand.
yeah, but what's the possibility of? Let me just say, for instance, one of the parties mentioned that they'll give them start a land or start a home or something like that.
Well,
for 300, for 3,000 something, 300,000. Oh, what was again, boy? It's just so much that is kind of
Well,
confused too. But for 3,000 persons or three.
on all the other episodes of
Mhm.
We the Youth, the young people have been asking the real question, which is how.
Well,
You could promise the sky. You
who gain
the-
10%?
the real
Who-
question that voters have to ask is how are you going to do this?
But the other question to that, Rudy, is not only how you're going to do it, but how can another party do it?
Well, on the 28th, people make up their minds for different reasons, right? Hopefully, most of them have a list of criteria.
Well,
I know
hopefully.
some of them, they have one criteria, and we know what that is. That
Well,
has been.
Rudy,
But there has to be other criteria.
a question that I've asked my listeners on the previous shows, right? I asked them, I said, listen, coming out of the election April 28th, the person who you voted for, the party you voted for, what do you expect from them? Now, my big issue, my number one priority is security, because I could never understand how I could be walking on the road and I feeling unsafe.
Well, I was deliberately leaving that one.
No, but
alone,
what I want to ask you
think
is,
it's
what is
good.
yours? What's your priority? What is something that you're looking forward to from the party that's going to win, whichever party
My, and I'll explain why.
it is?
My priority focus is genuine socioeconomic development. And I'll tell you why that is core to me. Because I'm fed up of dealing with the symptoms of our problems.
Right.
I'm fed up of putting plasters on sores while a large segment of our population is trapped, Carrie, in a vulnerable and at risk position. And that is what has led to the crime situation. That is what has led to stagnation in the economy. That is what has led to people literally dying or taking their lives because in some people they cannot access the healthcare that they require. They cannot earn the type of money that they should have been able to
Right.
if they had got the right opportunities. And that is what leads, and again, it's not justifying, but you have to reverse engineer. Why would somebody, do young people just automatically wake up on the wrong side of the bed? I don't know which side it is.
No,
And
not the
decide,
right
you know,
side.
this morning I'm going to go and look for a gun to kill somebody
Yeah,
else to
or
make $500.
this morning, you see that grocery across, I'm going to rob that grocery.
I don't think the average young person simply turns on a switch. There must be a series of things that happens in that person's
to lead
life
up to that.
leads to
Yeah.
that. And until we address all of these socioeconomic problems, we are going to have people who are dependent on the state for a handout, a hamper, a food card,
Right.
an HGC house. Those people have every right to fulfill a greater potential.
Yeah.
Because each human being, each child that is born in this country, in a rich country like ours, should never have to face what some of them still face today, which is lack of access to water,
Yeah.
electricity, education, protection, because some of them are being abused.
Yeah.
And who is there to assist them? How many social workers do we have?
And that is what we have to start
So
to look
my
at.
focus,
Yeah.
maybe I am a bit privileged, but again, that is why people like myself, like us, those of us that have the ability to look at life differently, we have a responsibility to use platforms like these to advocate for those changes.
And talking about advocating for changes, of course, this is with the youth, and of course, you can keep it locked to our Facebook page, Freedom 106.5 FM, and you can tune in right here, Freedom 106.5 FM. Go on our social media pages, and you would see this live stream. So, today's topic, our innovation, our economy, Rudy. Big one today, no?
Well, we've been leading up to these larger areas for the last few weeks because, as I was just saying, it is really within the minds of the younger generation,
right,
where they will be able to bring forward the ideas that will help us diversify and to provide opportunities for the socioeconomic bracket I was talking about earlier.
Yes, nice like a pie. So let me just give a quick mention of our guests, Malika Paltu and Shandel Paltu. Guys, when we come back from this break, we're going to have more of the discussions. Continue sending me those messages via WhatsApp 306-1065. This is We the Youth. It's just about 3:15. We're going to take a quick break and be back. Keep it locked.
In a time of promises and politics, only one thing truly matters: your voice, your freedom. As Trinidad and Tobago heads to the polls, Freedom 106.5 FM brings you the clearest conversations, the toughest questions, and real issues affecting your vote. No spin, no fluff, just fearless talk radio, live analysis, and unfiltered voices from every corner of the nation. Stream us live at www.freedom1065.com and follow the discussion on our social media pages at Freedom 106.5 FM, your voice, your freedom, only on Freedom 106.5 FM.
For generations we've been serving you, giving you the best for less, that's what we do. Friendly faces, fresh foods on every aisle, at JTA supermarkets you are sure to smile. The best prices each day. Come to JTA. JTA Supermarkets. Your total bill always costs less at JTA.
Now, a station that's giving you back the power to speak your mind. The all-new talk radio, Freedom 106.5.
Welcome back, Freedom 106.5 FM. Carrie V is here. I'm in your company alongside my co-hosts, Rudy Hanamji, and of course, Anarion, just trolling in. He's the boss at Freedom 106.5 FM. Welcome back, Rudy.
Welcome back, Carrie, and to all our viewers and listeners. We're always proud to be here on Freedom 106.5 FM, part of the Guardian Media Group. They're giving a platform for we the youth to have a say on public policy and innovation.
Correct.
And it's always interesting. Today, unfortunately, one of the reasons Anarion is tardy is simply because of the rainfall. And how many years have we spoken in this country about flood management when a relatively little bit of rain falls in a short period of time, the roads become traffic logged.
Well, it becomes a swimming pool.
And this has a knock-on effect, a negative knock-on effect on people's lives, because all of a sudden you will be late to pick your children up. Well, school is closed today, thankfully, but you'll be late for your other appointments,
engagements.
There'll be safety issues. Then people's crops get flooded out. We have already a limited supply of local produce. So we're glad you made it through, Anarion. Welcome. We were talking earlier, as you heard, about policy and should we really take these manifestos seriously, because over the years the parties tend to focus on hygiene factors. So you might as well say, well, okay, it's a given, they will give out more grants and subsidies.
Well, that is why you and I have this this madness put together called the Our Part organization, where we advocate for accountability and representation, where we actually pay attention to the manifestos and when we decide to go out and hold persons accountable for the failed promises. Now, on the last episode, you would have heard me call in and ask Kyle and Renee about
Yes.
social promises, and they said there's no contract like that in Trinidad
Unfortunately.
and Tobago. But I think we could introduce it. If enough young people stand up and say, you promised to give us water 24/7 for the whole country, and they fail to deliver, no matter what the issues are, you made a promise. If you and I go to somewhere and you say, well, Anarion, I'm going to buy you a car, I'm going to hold you very much accountable for that. I could do with a new car. But young people is the same thing. We go out and we dip our fingers in the ink, so to say, for specific promises. And if we don't get that, I think it's time for young people to stand up and rise up.
Well, we have with us today two young people who are doing just that in their own fields, and perhaps I can introduce them. So, sitting to your right is none other than Shandel Paltu. Shandel, I got that name correct this time, right?
Yes, that's correct.
So, Shandel, you are the founder of MS Foods. You
Correct.
combine your background in nutrition with a passion for local produce. With over 7 years of experience as a nutritionist and holding a Bachelor of Science in Family and Consumer Science, you're by completing a Master's in Value and Security. And the name of your company again is MS Foods, and you're trying to utilize sustainable methods and vegetables into delicious condiments. So, Shandel, before I introduce our other guest, who you know better than all of us, and our listeners will figure out why in a short moment, tell us a little bit about your journey and why this sector. What drives Shandel to get up on a morning and to go after this dream as a young entrepreneur?
Right. So I'll have to take you back to 2014. I started a children's camp with one of our former teacher, Mr. Andrew Legal. What we did is that we saw the need in our community that there are fatherless boys, young men. So we needed to mentor them in, understanding themselves and, learning about mentorship as boys.
Right.
So while there, we started a camp called My Experience Camp. It's an initiative where we mentor them and develop their skills as young men. And I had to do catering. So while there, I realized that most of the young men had allergies to condiments. So
Really?
to mustard and ketchup,
Okay.
some soy sauce. So they had a lot of allergies in regards to these condiments.
And
So
you had the presence of mind to notice that.
I noticed that.
And I don't
right.
want that to be lost on other younger people out there who are thinking of starting a business.
Right.
Sometimes you have to just be present to recognize an issue.
Correct.
So you observe this high incidence of allergies. Okay.
Yes. And I did some research and I realized that most of the condiments they are high in additives, preservatives, and colorants. And
You mean the things we can't pronounce
the things
when
that
you
we
look
can't
at the
pronounce.
ingredients label?
Correct. So
Okay.
sodium benzoate and these things.
Oh my
So
gosh, she started it.
started it, yes. So it's really interesting to see that our body functions with these things in it,
Right.
these additives and preservatives, and when you see ailments come about, how do you pinpoint?
Over time.
Yes, how do
People
you pinpoint?
wonder what happened to me.
Correct. And then there's hidden fats, sugar, salt. So this could be a cause for like hypertension and diabetes
And
in
you know
children.
Trinidad has one of the highest rates of NCDs and cancer in the
Correct.
world per
Yes.
capita.
Yes. So with that in mind, I kept it at the background
Okay.
until it came back up in 2022, where I was in my courting period. And I noticed that hives started to come about, my significant other, and we couldn't pinpoint what it was until we started to look at what we eat.
Wow.
which is
Which is a little scary
correct.
because people may be having. So they're probably having a similar experience and they're not looking at the food. They might be looking at other stimulation. But so I'm gathering from you what is driving you really is a need to make us be better.
Yes.
Better, not just physically, but holistically. Because by making the citizens healthier, you have you have greater potential for the country to fulfill its own potential, because
Right.
we'll have less of a drain on the healthcare system. People will be more productive. They'll be able to live their fullness. So I like that. And I'm glad you brought up. So we'll stick a pin for a minute because you introduced your better half, but I'm going to ask Anarion to introduce her. And we gave the cat out of the bag, Anarion. But go right ahead.
So it's my pleasure to introduce Michaela Paltu, who's a registered nurse and phlebotomist. She is dedicated to raising awareness and advocating for individuals, fostering a supportive community for those affected by chronic urticaria. Thank you.
Malika will tell us exactly what that is.
Her work is driven by her experience with the condition, and she aims to educate the public and healthcare professionals to share their insights and promote a better understanding and diagnostics for the treatment. So, with that being said, maybe she could enlighten us as to what it is, because it's the first time I've heard that term.
Yes. Malika, over to you. What is that term? And when you finish answering that and educating us, similarly, tell us a little bit about your journey and what has you waking up each morning to really be an innovation specialist in your field.
Sure. So thanks for having me. Urticaria is basically when its hives build up on your body. So the main cause is unknown. However, there are factors that can contribute to it, such as allergic reaction, maybe to some type of detergent, the food you eat, the environment, simple thing as pollen, right? So urticaria is basically red welts that that erupts on your skin, and most of the times it's really painful. In my case, it's really painful. It's really itchy. One moment you're good, the other moment you're curled up in a ball wondering, what exactly is taking place. So I came up with living the mostest as well, living comes somewhere everyday life as being a nurse and seeing patients, being the emotions they get from being diagnosed from health condition.
Of course.
Right.
We can all imagine.
Yes,
how people
and
have
the
to deal with these
emotion
things.
it has on them.
Yes.
And some of them is like, there's no hope,
Wow.
right? So living is living despite of.
Okay.
Mostis is a term my husband and I used.
I know the term very well, Carrie. Don't we know that term?
We know that
Yes,
term a
we've
lot,
used it a
yes.
couple of times.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, instead of saying I love you, we would say mostis. That's, a cliche
Oh,
type
Very
of
nice.
term.
I love that.
Cheers
Yeah,
to that.
so
Yes.
living the mostis is living the best life you can despite of
Wow.
what is
What a-
taking place.
Right.
Yes, so I have built an initiative where I bring awareness to the condition, because it is not like focused locally. In abroad, they mostly talk about it in terms of what it is, the condition, treatment options, but locally in the CARICOM countries, they
Yes.
don't like focus on that particular skin condition. So I am bringing awareness to it, advocating
Great.
for the voiceless, being, there are some individuals who don't like, I don't know what to say, like, a voice for the voiceless
Right.
in a
Right.
sense.
'Cause
Okay.
they
Right, and
wouldn't know where to
creating
go
a
to get
community,
information and-
creating a supportive community.
Because they would have some persons right here in Trinidad and Tobago don't even know that they have that. They just experience these bumps and these burns.
Yeah.
So a community is a great idea.
Yeah.
So that
Yes.
persons would not feel alone. in this.
Alone.
Yeah.
Because especially in my situation, when it started to happen, I was just in my nursing training, so I
Yes.
didn't really had much knowledge as I had today on the condition, and I was really feeling alone in this because
Wow.
locally there
Even
was
as
nothing.
a medical professional,
Yes.
far less for those who have no understanding of how the
Yes.
body works, what's happening to them.
Yes.
And I think it's interesting, Carrie, that you have two young people in studio who are approaching healthcare and preventative approaches to being better about how we manage what we eat, how we live our lives. Because often, again, as I said earlier, people treat with the symptoms. So, in both your instances, people having they don't have the luxury of the information. So whatever is happening to them, they'll probably try and treat it with an ointment or a tablet. And
Yeah.
Right.
maybe even some doctors might just prescribe something to treat the symptom. But because some of them may not have the money to go and have advanced testing done,
Right.
they may not have the luxury, Carrie,
And
of
some people
even
might just pop
leaving their
a
work.
allergy pill and call that
Self-diagnosed.
joy. Yeah.
So if both of you all actually are successful in what you're doing, you will not only start preventing some of these things from happening, but you will also prevent people from misdiagnosing and perhaps
Causing more
allow.
harm,
Yes,
probably.
exactly. So
Yeah.
prevention is always better than cure.
Yes. So I know we have to take a break at this time. So guys, continue sending me those messages via WhatsApp 306-1065. If you're now joining us, good afternoon and welcome. It's just about 3:30. Yeah, people are in traffic. No. Just imagine 3:30 traffic, pressure in the camp. But thanks so much for giving it locked to Freedom 106.5 FM. Check out our Facebook page. We are also live. And continue sending those messages. We're going to take a quick one and be back. Keep it locked.
When we come together for a common cause, we do more than help. We move a nation because united is the way. This year, volunteer with your company for United Way's Day of Caring on Sunday, May 18th to create lasting change. One school, one child, one community at a time. Or donate towards this cause at uwtt.com. It isn't just today, it's a movement for a stronger, more caring Trinidad and Tobago. United is the way. Find out more at uwtt.com.
The following is a paid political announcement.
TNT, we're inviting you to join us as we write a new chapter with Prime Minister Stuart Young on Tuesday, April 22nd. St. Joseph, the People's National Movement, will be having a public meeting at Nyabingi's Bar, Corner King and Abercrombie Street on Wednesday, April 23rd. St. James, meet us at Corner Bournes Road and Church Street. Then on Thursday, April 24th, Sangre Grande, meet us at the PTSC Terminal. Hear from our chairman, Prime Minister the Honorable Stuart Young, and a lineup of powerful speakers. St. Joseph, see you on Tuesday, April 22nd. St. James, see you on Wednesday, April 23rd. Sangre Grande, see you on Thursday, April 24th. All meetings start at 6:30 p.m. This is a new chapter for TNT. We're red, ready, and responsible. On April 28th, vote PNM. Great is the PNM.
That was a paid political announcement.
In a time of promises and politics, only one thing truly matters: your voice, your freedom. As Trinidad and Tobago heads to the polls, Freedom 106.5 FM brings you the clearest conversations, the toughest questions, and real issues affecting your vote. No spin, no fluff, just fearless talk radio, live analysis, and unfiltered voices from every corner of the nation. Stream us live at www.freedom1065.com and follow the discussion on our social media pages at Freedom 106.5 FM, your voice, your freedom, only on Freedom 106.5 FM.
And welcome back to We the Youth, episode 10, Our Innovation, Our Economy. My name is Rudolph Hanamji, CEO of Our Part, the portal for accountability and representation for Trinidad and Tobago. Carry 10 episodes down.
Sand, yes.
Maybe 100 to go, who knows?
Well, boy, don't worry, I have my shoes on, I have my clothes on, I have my mic on. Everything is in order for 100 episodes.
Because Anarion, our CEO, he joined us and we were talking about what is going on with healthcare. Because our two guests who are entrepreneurs, NARS, they're sort of a mix of entrepreneurs. They're like agro, health.
But if we think back
Food.
about it, across the 10 episodes, we had other entrepreneurs here.
I think all these young people, they have an entrepreneurial mind.
Because
They all had that innovation spark.
because young people are trying away or moving away from traditional
Yeah.
careers such as lawyers and doctors and things. They want to make their own money. We want to retire by 35, 40 and have our money make money.
Well, Carrie, I ain't reached that goal, girl.
Well,
A bus.
well, all right. Well, I mean, okay.
Maybe
No,
45, maybe 50.
maybe 50.
I'm being serious because the idea of working for people and things
Yeah.
like that is foreign to younger people, to the younger generations.
Well, a lot of older people don't even know the term gig economy. And many of us are members of that economy, which is the remote work, where we practice a lot of consultancy, project work. The only challenge, Anars and Kari, is that government policy in Trinidad and Tobago has not kept pace with that type of economy. And I'll give you a simple example. If any of us were to be a sole entrepreneur, it is very difficult for us to still get a mortgage at the bank because the banks still see an 8 to 4, 9 to 5 job as stable
Correct.
income. But having said that, Carrie, do you know that most couples, just like our guests Shandel and Malika, many couples like them also still cannot meet the criteria to get a mortgage at the bank in today's
As
economy?
entrepreneurs?
Not just as entrepreneurs,
Wow.
even
Working
as
people.
people who are working in regular jobs.
And that's so unfortunate, huh?
So, young people out there, that is why today we're talking about our innovation, our economy, because we need to take ownership of where the country is going, and we need to, as Anarion was saying, not only demand policy, but inform it from the very beginning. We have to be effectively included, Anarion, don't we?
I agree. And so far for young people and small and micro enterprises actually in entrepreneurship, there are little things given. You find contracts being given out to multi-conglomerates, whereas the small man ain't getting nothing. And excuse the broken language, but I mean, we're dealing with young people. They don't really much up on pure English anymore.
You all don't?
No, I don't. I've heard some of my young
Carrie,
people.
notice just now I extracted myself
did,
for a
you
moment.
did,
that
yeah, one
I
time.
had to say you all because I obviously am not part of that young
you're,
group.
you're not a part of them. No.
No, hear me out. When you pronounce the TH and the, and you pronounce when as WH
And
properly,
white, yes.
people tend to watch you weird.
Okay.
So you gotta say white.
That explains a lot now for my whole life. but your point, sorry,
yes,
we are
made me
digressing.
lose my trail of thought.
No, you were saying to use broken language, and you were going to reference
What?
the
He was
fact that
saying to
people
use
didn't want to work
Did he say
in a
bro-
traditional sense.
Right. So they want more smaller micro enterprises. There's
Right.
nothing really set up in the country in terms of policies and grants and those things. You still have to jump over hoops. Banks and institutions don't want to take the chance on giving someone without a stable income a loan to start something up.
So I guess that's a
And-
good way to ask our guests.
Yeah,
what their experiences
what
have
the
been.
current status for them and what they plan to experience.
So Shandal, you decided you were going to start this company. Even though you're a trained nutritionist, you could open your office or perhaps go into the public sector or private sector and get a quote unquote a stable job. But being an entrepreneur requires time. So tell us, as an RN saying, what has been your experience in trying to get this endeavor off the ground? Are the current systems and policies supporting you the way that you would want to be supported for your initiative? And then, of course, Malika, we'll come to you with the same question and see if there are any commonalities.
Right. For me, there's difficulty in funding for sure. Finding
Okay.
grants, finding loans as well. A lot of the banks they aren't open to new and innovative ideas, especially those like musicians and so forth. But for my initiative, it's
Interesting.
unique.
Yes, we had because we did have an episode on the orange economy. But yes, go
Right.
ahead.
So what they require is they may say they may need a projection, but even with the projection, it's still not enough. You need to show hard evidence that it works. And another part of it is that the bank may give you, knowing that you may have a down payment. But if there's no down payment, how could you assess that an idea could work in the long run? So then you have to prove via, let's say it's product basis. You
Yes.
have to sell a certain amount to show that there's a probability that it works. But what if the economy changes? People no longer want
Right.
your service or products. The bank may not want to have that type of relationship.
So basically, the traditional financial ecosystem
Right.
is not really meeting your, and not just your needs, but as you're saying, this is a general complaint. We've heard, Anarion, I mean, from even yourself as an agropreneur yourself, I think you've had a similar
Yeah, I'm
issue.
still going through issues with different financial institutions to get funding to do certain things.
And the point is, Carrie, that it's not so much, and I always have to make this clarification, it's not the bank's fault, you know. The banks, the traditional banks, are set up with a certain business model, and that's how they make money. What has been missing in the ecosystem is microfinancing institutions. Now, credit unions stepped up years ago and took up some of that space, because I know a lot of people who've been able to open their businesses and to buy a home by being members of a credit union. But it's not enough. There needs to be many more levers to provide financing opportunities. And the government's role is to pass policy that encourages private sector funds to come in. So it shouldn't always be the government's funds or the state funds going to into these pools. There should be more incentives for the private sector to get involved. I see you're nodding.
Yes, so I would say a quick thought here.
Mm-hmm.
I have an issue with persons gatekeeping an industry.
Wow.
That is a
Those
huge
are
term.
strong words,
Yeah.
Chandler.
So what I realize is that if there are persons who, let's say we're doing condiment base, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there are persons who could mentor new generations coming up or new entrepreneurs coming up. Why would they gatekeep rather than to help improve? If there's a working system, improvement is
But
always needed.
it's interesting you raise that, because in other economies around the world where you see innovation taking place, or you see innovation coming to market, then let's put it that way, because some innovations are hidden, they're undermined, they never see the light of day, but sometimes you do see them. What you're saying actually happens, where certain companies, the private sector, they will onboard these people and put them in the R&D or they will actually fund their ideas, because they're able to see that by doing that they could have a better business, because they're driven by a higher goal than just making money. They want to make money the right way. So I guess that's what you're talking about. Like,
Yes,
and
correct.
instead of people fostering that type of enabling environment, they actually close the gate on you
Right.
and try to keep you out.
Yeah, what happened is that instead of growth,
Right.
now every business needs to understand how to pivot. And there's opportunity to pivot through young person, new ideas, and just funding these initiatives could
Yeah.
help see markets. Could be new, could be niche, could be something that it's a hit and miss. So we need to kind of look up what companies, large companies or medium companies could find from new or evolving ideas.
So you want to take us quickly into some of the solutions, which is great, because it shows that you have a solutions mindset.
Right.
So I'm going to ask you to hold those thoughts, because we want to bring in, I don't know if to say your better half or maybe your equal half. So Malika, you heard what Shandal said, and you would have observed your husband in his own trials and tribulations, and while you are also building out your initiative, and I'm sure you all support each other. But what has been your experience? Like, maybe you can say quickly if you also agree with the financing issue, but anything else you would like to add that is specific to your experience?
Yes, financing is a big, major
Also
problem.
for you,
Yeah,
right?
especially at this time. And yeah, he's quite correct. And also, in the nursing aspect,
Yes.
there's no diversity in terms of specialization, in terms of proper employment, training.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Let us unpack that a little bit. I'm sure you have some other things you want to add, but every time one of our guests says something that I find intriguing, I always ask them to hold a thought for a moment.
Sure.
But tell us, because people hearing that might have thought the opposite, because you have doctors specializing.
Right.
So you have people who are specialists in ophthalmology or cardiology or podiatry. But you're saying in the nursing field, we
And in-
don't have that right now.
The most common
Uh-huh.
one that we do have is midwifery.
And for
right?
those out there who don't know, that's helping with births,
Yes,
right?
yes, childbirth. But in an aspect of specialization in terms of not just being a general nurse after you
Right.
finish your degree, but if you want to be intensive care unit nurse,
Wow. Or
geriatric.
geriatric.
Yes.
But Malika, one would think, Anarion, you don't think this would have been a government policy eons ago
Well,
to encourage
I
specialization?
agree. Now that falls onto the institutions that doing the training. But I know of a lot of geriatric nurses and nurses who specialize in wound care and those different things. As you know, mommy had surgeries a couple times over the past couple of years. And as specialized nurses, we have come see about her.
So, Malika, is that maybe what you're saying is it does happen, but few and far between? Like a certain select group of people might be able to
yes,
get
and I would
some
say
specialized.
some of the courses that they do offer
Mhm.
in the healthcare setting, it's usually like a 2 weeks program, then they placed you in a specialized area. So more focusing on the educational training aspect where they can have a grasp of the entire concept rather than just a 2-week course and then put you in a
so you're asking for
specialized ward
something
to
more
So a
to
longevity
in-depth.
behind
Yes.
it and more
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
depth. So
yeah.
I think we should have policies based
Yes.
on that.
And of course, guys, it's just about 3:45. We've got to take a break. And when we come back, much more of the discussions. Of course, send me those messages via WhatsApp 306-1065. This is We the Youth, and we are going all the way to 5 p.m.
Tune in to Betterments with host Space, Monday through Thursday, 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. for a program that educates and is solution-based. Base tackles the issues that matter to you, providing a platform to speak your mind and find solutions. That's Betterments with Base, with a focus on education and resolution. This is all about making things better for you. You can reach us via phone and WhatsApp to share your thoughts and find solutions to the issues that matter to you. So if you want to make a difference and have your voice heard, tune into Freedom 106.5 FM and join us for Betterments with Base, Monday through Thursday from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. Better for you. Only on Freedom 106.5 FM, where we believe that your voice matters.
Welcome back to With You Youth right here on Freedom 106.5 FM, where I'm joined by my lovely co-host, Carrie V,
Hello.
and my awesome host,
Okay.
Rudolph and Hanamji.
Hi, Rudy.
Hello, good afternoon again.
Now, just before the break, we were discussing with Malika, some issues surrounding the healthcare sector and nursing specifically. So can you continue along that line as to what policies you think should be implemented or young people should be looking out for, especially those in the healthcare field, in this season that we're in, this heightened season?
Another aspect is standardization in nursing. Why are nursing being paid the same at different level? So let's say an associate and bachelor's degree, they are being paid the same, right? Compared to someone who is in a specialized area, right?
Okay.
So why are nurses still being paid 2013 salary when we are in 2025, right? This will tend to allow nurses to basically leave and to find betterment in abroad.
Oh, so again.
So again, a brain drain.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we spoke
And not
about that.
only just
Not-
a brain drain, but again a skill drain at this point in time.
and that is
Yes.
happening in many sectors,
And
not
also
just
burnout,
nursing.
yes, burnout as well.
Of course, because you
nurse
only
that-
have so many.
Yes, and the nurse to patient ratio is disheartening. Patients are not getting the care that they need because nurses has to try to basically do everything in a sense, with less staffing, less equipment.
So, for a minute, I just want you to close your eyes and picture the perfect TNT. And tell me, what is that one policy that would fix this issue right now? Forget the fact that, forget money, forget anything else. Just, if you could have gotten it done now, today for today, what is that one policy you would want to see implemented?
I would want to see equality.
That's a powerful word, Malika.
Yeah, equality.
No, but how exactly is that? So, the policy statement. I understand the concept of equality, but the policy position, or Prime Minister, if you were the Prime Minister,
or Minister of Health, let's see.
What is the one thing that you're going to put in the law to stay? This needs to be done to fix the issue.
You'd have to have the right clause,
but
not as though it were a piece of legislation. But
give us a phrase, a statement.
So like, I would do, or this, or this is an idea that nurses have been asking about for a long time. This is what should be put into the policy.
I would say better support groups. Actually listen to nurses, hear what they have to say, listen to the challenges that are being faced out there. I would also say implementing laws such as that safeguard nurses, right?
Okay.
Safeguarding the nurses against what?
So there are nurses who are being abused.
Wow.
Right? Yeah.
From patients.
Right. And what are the policies put in place to safeguard the nurse?
Oh, and currently we don't have any?
Not at this moment.
So
Yes, there are institutions where basically governs the nurses, or let's say the nurse has to go to court. They have a support body in a sense.
Through maybe an
right?
association
But
or
but
something.
what exactly could the nurses get from the RHAs in a case of when that happens?
I think, Ari, what I am getting, and Malika, you correct me if this is not the right analogy. You remember a public policy was launched a few years ago that if you're a police officer and you pass away in the line of duty,
right,
there's my memory is a certain amount of money, right?
I can't remember the figure, but I know the policy you're talking
So
about.
what you're really getting at is we need some details around if these kinds of things are being experienced. It should be known in advance what are the opportunities for redress.
Yes.
What are the ways that the nurse might be made whole again, support systems financially, otherwise. And you're saying that some of these details in the policy just don't exist.
Yes.
But let me just go a little deeper into that. So let's just I don't know if you can, if there's an example that you can kind of bring to us so that we can have a little understanding, because I know it has some patients real hard to deal with, right? So in the like Anarion, right? He just raised his hand. So in the event of, let's say, for instance, a patient physically abused a nurse, what is the usual redress? What happens? What happens to the nurse after that? What can she do? How can she, or who can she go to, or who he or she can go to get some type of redress? What usually happens?
Well, it depends on the type of abuse. So
give me an example.
Let's say it's like physical abuse where you cause like intensive harm to that nurse. This nurse will have to go on sick leave, right?
Right.
And that nurse will basically have to finance him or herself, whether they go to a private doctor to get treatment, right? And there's nothing really put in place for nurses. And in a case like that, they may move the nurse somewhere she's working and place her somewhere else, right? So they basically safeguard the patient in a sense. Patient has more rights than the staff itself.
And
that is something that can decrease the morale of the
of
the nurse, and that's gonna make me want to come back here and work.
You see, in discussing with the two of you all right here in this studio, Carrie, we have quite easily identified some of the important, unfortunate gaps in public policy. And one has to ask, why have these gaps not been closed over the years? Because this is not a new issue. So your discussion around not just the financing, but what you didn't say that I read between the lines is where's the policy in terms of guarding what we eat? We need to look at those types of public policies. What are children consuming at an early age, Carrie? What ingredients do we want to be associated with our nutritional needs? And how do we rebalance the scales? Now, in a free market economy, for example, it's difficult to prevent certain products from being sold, but that's where taxes come in. So similarly with alcohol and cigarettes, you can look at certain food items and ensure that the way the tax system works encourages people to buy other things that are healthier for them. Because that's what we do in economics. We create a market for what we call a negative externality. And in your case, Malika, you are speaking about not just yourself, but other nurses would like to fulfill their own potential, whether by opening up initiatives the way you are, or working in the private or public space, but being paid more equitably, having the right niche training, as you're saying, so that they could specialize and provide better healthcare options. And also being protected from in advance, knowing what are the regulations that govern me and will come to my aid if something happens to me. So, Carrie, I think, you know, as we come upon the close of the first hour, we've really unpacked here some easy solutions, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, you're correct.
If policymakers are interested.
And the points that Malika raised, it's valid points, because I've just received a message here on the WhatsApp. Somebody said, Carrie, I am a nurse, and what she is speaking is true. There's hardly ever any cover for us in the event of something happening. And that's unfortunate, because as a nurse, and no, I'm not a nurse. Now, as a nurse, you have to be in a particular mind frame to go and see about patients. And if you realize that every time you come to work is always something that might be emotionally abusive to you, physically abusive, how would that person feel? How would that nurse feel? And we have to protect our nurses. We have to.
We're losing too many, and they're going all over the world, and in ecosystems where some of these things are in place, right? So they want to, and you can't hold that against them.
Let me bring this to you. When I graduated with my bachelor's in 2016, there were 580 something nurses graduated. 580 something, and that was back in 2016. Where are they now?
I understand we don't have enough, right? Malika, is that true? We don't have enough nurses.
No, we don't. We don't.
So my thing is,
they're somewhere.
Well, I mean, if I'm getting a better deal outside there, I go on, because at the end of the day, I've went to school, I've done the training in a specific field. I expect, as a Trinidadian, I expect to go, when I go by the Ministry of Health, or however the stream of employment goes, I expect to go and say, well, listen, this is my credentials, this is my experience, this is my qualifications, and I am ready to serve Trinidad and Tobago.
It's the same thing with Chandel. Quickly, just to add, Chandel, what I'm getting from you is that young people have ideas to make things better, but you use the word gatekeepers. They're being shut out, Carrie. So where will they also go? Elsewhere?
Outside, in London, in UK, in the States, and you know, a lot of these countries outside, they are accepting our nurses, you know.
Yes, they are, because they know our value.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So how
we're losing our human capital.
How is only we alone can see that?
Because we, the youth.
one of the things that I want to add here is that, well, I came from the medical field as well as a nutritionist.
Right.
I work at different RHs. And one of the things that I would love to see is digitalization. The hospital still works as in the 20th century.
And look at that.
Or before.
Or before the 19th. Right?
And we in 2025.
Well, I saw a photograph the other day, Carrie, of the record system. Now, I heard the Minister of Health speak about the digitalization and that you can access your medical records anywhere now,
Perhaps.
according
We're like,
to
which
him.
one? Send the link
I
from
take his word for it. But I still believe that there's, as you're saying, Chandel, there's a lot of manual systems and hard documents in the medical profession.
Yes,
And
yes,
even
there is.
I remember I went to a hospital. I'm not gonna call its name, but it's in the east. All right, I'm not gonna call its name, but in the east. I remember that I went to check a girlfriend of mine, and she's working in the records area.
Ooh.
So she said, "Girl, just come down, make a left, make a right." When I go and if you see tall
Towers and
towers,
towers.
hey me, where's all that? You know, she said that those are patients' files.
Yes.
And when they call her for a file, she has to climb up on something, look through the A, B, C, D, E, F, G by last name, and make sure and
So,
get that file.
Carius, you open the
crazy.
program by asking about manifestos. I dare anybody here, go and find a manifesto from the last 20 years. You will see something inside of there, a word like digitalization.
Aye, aye, aye.
Ask the person who put it there, why didn't they deliver
Why
on
thing
it?
going on? And with that, we go to our 4 p.m. news, courtesy Republic Bank Limited. When we come back, so much more of the discussions. We'll be taking your calls as well. Our 4 p.m. news is next. Keep it locked.
The best insight, instant feedback, accountability. The all-new Talk Radio Freedom 106.5.
This is Freedom 106.5 FM, powered by the TBC Radio Network, the nation's biggest and best network, included sister stations. Sky 99.5 FM, Vibe City 105 FM, 95, The Ultimate One, Singit 106.1 FM, and Islam 100.5 FM. This is the 4 p.m. news, courtesy Republic Bank Limited.
Good afternoon. I'm Jensen Levin with headline news on CNC3, Guardian, and the TBC Radio Network. Prime Minister Stuart Young says crime remains a major challenge in the country, but he is committed to tackling it. He says all arms of national security are being mobilized to focus resources on reducing serious crimes, including addressing the socio-economic factors that contribute to them. On Guardian Media's Islam 100.5 this morning, the Prime Minister referenced the recent murder of 15-year-old Malini Pusad, a Form 2 student of Asha Girls College in Barrackpore. He described it as a deeply troubling incident that underscores the urgent need for a comprehensive approach to prevent similar tragedies.
Another one that has been bothering me tremendously is a young autistic girl down in the Barrackpore area.
15-year-old girl.
Yeah, 15-year-old girl, and then a suspect takes his own life in well, I wouldn't comment on the manner. Those show that there are a lot of psychological things that need to be addressed, and that's why we've declared it a public healthcare system. The truth is, it is something that requires a lot of focus, a lot of emphasis.
18 days after surviving a shooting at his home, Anthony John was killed Tuesday morning along with his son in what police believe was a gang-related attack. Police said around 5:30 a.m., John was in his Kia pickup with Vicky Joseph and another man en route to sell coconuts when gunmen opened fire at Mont Plaisir corner. John and Joseph died at the scene. The third man was injured and taken for treatment. John's home was shot at on April 4th. In more crime news, a mover man who was shot in the neck last Wednesday died at the Port of Spain General Hospital on Sunday night. Police reported that Denison Jack of Paradise Heights was shot once in the neck after refusing to step out of a vehicle. At the time, the 39-year-old was in his vehicle, a Nissan Tida, with a 23-year-old woman when a gunman approached them at Industrial Road, Mover, and ordered them out of the car. Jack refused and was shot. The woman was not harmed. Jack was taken to the Port of Spain General Hospital where he remained in a critical condition until his death. Police are treating the death of an 18-year-old Mayaro resident as a possible suicide after he was found with stab wounds in his bedroom on Monday. Police reported that around 7:35 a.m., relatives of Emilio Lewis found him at his Grand Lagoon Mayaro home. Police said the teen was battling mental illness and drug abuse and had been warned against smoking marijuana by relatives before he was found with 21 stab wounds to the neck and slashed. Relatives said their home was well secured and no one entered or left the home. He was taken to the Mayaro Health Facility where he later died. This has been Headline News. Look out for another news update at the top of the hour, right here on CNC3.
And that was a 4 p.m. news on Freedom 106.5 FM, powered by the TBC Radio Network, the nation's biggest and the best networker. The 4 p.m. news was courtesy Republic Bank Limited.
That email or SMS seems suspicious. Be aware of its intent, could be vicious. That phone call or voice note sounds too serious. Too good to be true, probably fictitious. Don't be fooled by online imposters, promising things that are gonna cost ya. Be aware, protect your data and money. Stay aware, stay alert, stay secure.
You can outsmart the scammers. A message from Republic Bank. Report any suspicious activity to customer care at rfhl.com.
This is Freedom 106.5 FM, 106.5 FM. Your solution for current affairs and talk. Join the conversation today as we build a better nation. Insightful discussions and interviews on national progress, the latest developments in environmental, social, and governance, plus corporate social responsibility. Freedom 106.5 FM gives you a voice. Freedom to inspire, freedom to change. Speak your mind with Freedom 106.5 FM. In a time of promises and politics, only one thing truly matters: your voice, your freedom. As Trinidad and Tobago heads to the polls, Freedom 106.5 FM brings you the clearest conversations, the toughest questions, and real issues affecting your vote. No spin, no fluff, just fearless talk radio, live analysis, and unfiltered voices from every corner of the nation. Stream us live at www.freedom1065.com and follow the discussion on our social media pages at Freedom 106.5 FM, your voice, your freedom, only on Freedom 106.5 FM. Power up your Saturdays with Carrie V's electrifying energy on Speak Your Mind Saturdays. Here, you're not just tuning in, you're transforming the show into a vibrant tapestry of opinions, laughter, and spirited debates. Get set for a day packed with the fun, the burning issues, and Carrie V's infectious personality. Join the fun, fuel the conversation, speak your mind. Saturdays with Carrie V on Freedom 106.5 FM.
Welcome back, guys. It's just about 5 minutes away from 4. If you're now joining us, good afternoon and welcome. This is We the Youth right here on Freedom 106.5 FM. Carrie V alongside Anarion Mason, he's here, and Rudy just had to step out for a bit. And Anarion, yeah?
Yes, he did.
Wait, like a pony wrong mic. Go ahead.
Yes, Rudolph
Nice
did.
like a pie. Nice be
He had
inside.
to step away early today, but he'll be right back here with us at 3 p.m. tomorrow afternoon.
Nice, nice. So let's continue the conversation. Don't forget, guys, you can send us a message via WhatsApp 306-1065, and of course we'll be taking your calls in this hour 625-2257 or 627-3223. And we are talking about our innovation, our economy with Malika Paltu and Shandel Paltu. Am I pronouncing it correctly?
No.
Oh my gosh.
Malika.
Malika. I feel I have to break it up. Malika. And Shandel, right?
Correct, that's
nice. So we are here, and thanks so much for the discussion. So far, you have brought to light some of the things that the public, like we didn't know that happens with the nursing team, with the nursing fraternity, yeah. And I do hope that somebody somewhere, whichever party, could hear us out and possibly put something in place.
Well, of course, that is what the whole show is about, right? Is to elevate the youth voices for issues that surround national issues. And yeah, we hope that those who are in charge take charge. So with that being said, I'm going to jump back to Shandel. Shandel, right?
Shandel.
Shen, like
It's a unique name.
Yes. Shandel. Before the break, we would segue into you to discuss some policies that you would like to see implemented for entrepreneurs. So let's hear that.
So what I love is food security and understanding nutrition as well. So some of the policies I want to see is food security for Trinidad and Tobago. That's the most sector, yeah. So
Yeah,
it's
you and me.
harsh because if the farmers, how come they don't have proper equipment? You know, we need larger scale production for food. One of the things that I look at is our export and imports. Our imports, our consumption rate is at 7 point, I think it's 7.6 or 7.4. 7.3, I believe, yeah. So $7.3 billion worth of just imports. And it's just consuming, right? Our export is actually $3.6 billion worth, which means that we're not producing enough to output what we're consuming.
Right.
So food security needs to come up to par with how could we make our economy a bit more productive.
So the question becomes, or the question in my mind is that you don't find young farmers. Now, as when we're talking about food security, people tend to think farming only. There's agro-processing and packaging and those things. We'll get into that shortly. But for the young people out there, you don't find them interested in farming.
So there are young ones.
I know there are, because
Right.
I am one.
Correct.
But the majority of farmers that you find, and especially if it is you go to the market and things like that, you don't find young people there. How do we get young people, to your mind, more involved in this?
So it takes the look of ideation. There's a lot of young persons, in fact, they have family recipes, but they don't know what to do with it. And just the idea of creating value from what they have, that could give them an opportunity to not just be entrepreneurs, but establish an idea into a product itself, or maybe just an initiative to help other young persons in their community become farmers, create products, or even develop their ideas. So I think that will make them a bit more interested.
Okay, I could see that happening. And, well, we did do an episode on agriculture. I think that was in our first week, actually. We did an episode on agriculture. And what our guests were telling us is that they think we need winners in the agricultural space. Do you think that as well, or do you know of any winners that we could highlight?
So I know there's this guy who does comics in agriculture.
Comics in agriculture?
Yes. So
Okay.
there is. So that's a unique idea, right?
Like the Garfield and then you're talking about?
No. So he has this superhero. There's a male, a female. I believe there's a family of superheroes in agriculture. So that is already exciting, right?
I like that.
I don't have his name right now, but
No,
I
we
think
could
that's
find it. I'm sure we could find it.
We can find it. So he is a local Trinidadian guy who he creates unique characters to promote agriculture. So that's comics. There's other persons who they create dehydrates. Maybe it's like bay leaves, let's say lemongrass. These things are tradition to us, where we create teas, we add it to our soups and pilaus and these things. So what they do is they dehydrate it, so they already processed it into a way that it's natural.
Right.
And
I saw they did that with Karaili chips.
Right.
I ate that in a Karaili ring. Well, it's chips. They call it Karaili chips.
No, it's Karaili rings, just like onion rings.
Yeah, well,
that's fried and
when you cut the Karaili, it's looking like a circle, but they call it Karaili chips, and it tastes good. That's the only way I eat Karaili.
Right. so those are unique ideas.
It is.
So when someone has this unique idea, a young person, and all you're hearing is that wouldn't make money, or that is not something people are interested in.
Right.
That is very discouraging. But if you have initiatives, or you have maybe persons who can help guide them to where their idea could form into something, that is where persons could be interested. Young persons. The current government, they have initiatives where they do agriculture and these things.
Right.
But after that give of just here, there's an opportunity here. What about hand holding to, well, I have the idea of what I could do, but where do I go with it?
And this brings me to what I wanted to mention. I think that agriculture is not being pushed enough.
Correct.
And when we think agriculture, when I think agriculture, I think, you know, you're going out there and you're planting and you're toiling in the sun. I think about that. And let me be real. How much of us really want to do that? Not me. I ain't doing it. Sun too hot. I don't like sun already. But what I'm saying is there are new innovative ways on agriculture. And why don't we explore that? Is it because they think it may cost too much money? Or do they think that, you know, we wouldn't get enough produce out of it?
No, but remember our guests, Judy and Christian.
Yeah, I remember them Friday.
Remember they spoke about how expensive it is to set up an hydroponic system.
Right.
With specified climate control options and those different things. You're looking at hundreds of thousands that young people don't have access to. Which is why I was saying, if it is we have things in place to support young entrepreneurs that don't require you to have an 8 to 4 job to get a loan or to get a grant, and somebody's willing to take a chance on you to do that, it would work.
No, but why take a chance? Why can't they invest in it? Somebody had to do a big proposal or something, Chan? What's happening there?
Well, I don't want to say, I don't want to come out of it, but what I want to say is that we need mentors.
Right.
For sure. We need to show these young persons where to go. Because even if they have the idea, there isn't a path for them to go because it's a unique idea. But there are persons who've been there before. They can hold their hand and carry them to where they need to go until they say, here's what, you've outgrown this part of that business aspect. Here where we could carry you
go to the next level.
Right.
And we were discussing that sometime last week about the persons who know how to keep in that knowledge for themselves and they're going to the grave with it.
So that's gatekeeping.
But you know what? We're going to come back with this discussion after. It's just about 4:15 and we've got to take a break. So guys, continue sending me those messages via WhatsApp for 306-1065 and we will be taking your calls. Give us a call, 625-2257. If you're not joining us, good afternoon. And this is We the Youth. We're going to be back. We are here with Malika Paltu and Chandel Paltu. We are talking about our innovation, our economy. We're talking about food security and nursing and the nutritionist. Yeah, so it's all good for you. So send me that message via WhatsApp 306-1065. Send me the voice notes as well. And when we come back, we will be taking your calls. So keep it locked.
Spain, CPR Productions presents 7-Year Itch. San Fernando, it's your turn. One night, one show. Now Prima Bowl, Sunday, 4th May, 6:30 p.m.
This so much trying to cramp my style over. I know I would have win Diego Martin's seat. Hands down.
7-Year Itch stars Cecilia, Brody, Penny, Saran, Kevon, and Siobhan.
Tickets available at Antonio's Floral Val Park Shopping Plaza, K-Squared Stores, Brentwood Mall, and C3 Center. Ateliers by the park and Island e-tickets online.
Box office open Thursday, the 1st of May. Call 466-3111 or 683-4843 for information and bookings.
7-Year Itch, one show. Sando, don't miss it.
Start your day with hard-hitting interviews and news with the Morning Rumble. Weekdays 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Freedom 106.5 FM. Join Satish Mahabe as he tackles the issues and controversial topics.
You don't need to tell the public why he appealing.
Well, I think he should.
No, what you think he should do and what he has to do is two totally different things.
You'll hear from the experts and have the chance to speak your mind on the topics of the day.
Do you have a question for our guest?
Yes, so
Get to the question, please.
Non-topic is off limits on the Morning Rumble. So whether you're just starting your day or stuck in traffic, join us weekdays from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. for a morning show that will leave you informed, fired up, and ready to take on the world. The Morning Rumble with Satish Mahaber, only on Freedom 106.5 FM.
In a time of promises and politics, only one thing truly matters: your voice, your freedom. As Trinidad and Tobago heads to the polls, Freedom 106.5 FM brings you the clearest conversations, the toughest questions, and real issues affecting your vote. No spin, no fluff, just fearless talk radio, live analysis, and unfiltered voices from every corner of the nation. Stream us live at www.freedom1065.com and follow the discussion on our social media pages at Freedom 106.5 FM, your voice, only on Freedom 106.5 FM.
Now, a station that's giving you back the power to speak your mind. The all-new talk radio, Freedom 106.5.
And welcome back to We the Youth right here on Freedom 106.5 FM. And I'm joined by Carrie V.
Hello.
As well as Shen and Michaela.
Malika.
And Shandell.
And
You know-
Shandell.
And Shandell. You know, there was a girl, 2 girls in my class actually, who carried your name, and it's, if they hear me now, they're gonna kill me. But that's besides the point. Carrie, do we have any messages?
We do. Let me see if I can pull up these messages here. Not the voice note as yet. However, someone says, good afternoon to you guys. The UNC in their manifesto will help productive content producers and lots more for agriculture too. All right.
Well, we know
Only-
who that person voted
Well, but we clearly, there's only one way to find out because promises left, right, and center. We ain't too sure. We know what's going on here. Yes. So that's the only message. But of course, guys, you can get into the conversation. Give us a call at 625-2257 or 627-3223. Send us those voice notes to 306-1065. Just about 19 minutes after 4. And if you're not joining us, this is We the Youth. And let's get on with it.
And, you know, just before the break, Carrie, we was discussing all the problems that we're having. And it's Shen who decided he wanted to start a talk about some solutions, where he mentioned an agro comic. And during the break, we found the agro comic. And it's pretty interesting. But what other solutions do you see happening there? Not only in the healthcare realm of entrepreneurship, but in entrepreneurship itself.
So I think in entrepreneurship itself is, well, I was saying mentorship. And
Hold, I thought we do have a caller.
Let's see who's there. Hello, good afternoon. All right, try me back, 625-2257 or 627-3223. Let's see who's there. Which line? Okay, let's try again. Hello, good afternoon. All right. Just call me back, 625-2257 or 627-3223.
Okay, as you were saying?
right, so I was saying that aside from mentorship, we need to have programs that's in place where after maybe the study part of it, some courses that people do take, aquaculture, farming.
Aquaculture?
Yeah,
that's a thing.
That's a program that came in this term where we learn about fisheries and stuff like that.
Right.
And what I would say is that we need opportunity where they could be mentored into business, understand not just tax and how to run a business, but they need to have that opportunity of what routes could they go, grants and fundings and all these things they need to have accessible.
Right, but doesn't NEDCO offer that training to persons who are applying for loans and grants by them?
Right.
Or are we looking at persons outside of NEDCO?
So I would say outside of NEDCO, because NEDCO is actually overwhelmed with what they have.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so even if I do apply, there's a waiting period. And while that waiting period is there, there's other things that they could have done. Also, entrepreneurs need to understand how to diversify their portfolio. That is something that I haven't seen much of.
Alright.
So let's say they do have one aspect of the business, helping them understand the ideas on how they could diversify and pivot from one point to the other.
Okay, and Malika. I got that correct this time, right?
Malika.
Malika. Yes, Malika, what about you? What are your thoughts on solutions? What would you like to see implemented?
I would like to see nurses have a stronger support system. Yes, there are institutions who are for the nurses, but there's only so much that they can do. And I would like to see nurses get back their voice and also respect in the field, because nurses are the backbone of the healthcare system, and your health is your wealth, right? So I would like to see nurses get the respect that they deserve in that field.
Okay, and how do we get young people involved in everything that is happening? So, let me phrase it this way. In this current heightened season that we're in, have you heard anything that gives just cause as to wanting to go out and exercise your civil right? Please don't mention nobody's name, but just in general, have you heard anything to look forward to?
So I've seen one party in particular. They talk about food security. That is something needed in Trinidad and Tobago.
All right,
there's another party that gave grants for special, but that's not enough. What we
Before you continue, Shanda, what's your idea or definition of food security? Because we've been hearing food security all over the place, left, right, and center, right? But what's your definition of it? And where are we in Trinidad and Tobago when it comes to food security?
So, food security itself, I would say that it deals with, and I'm looking at a holistic view, right?
Right.
Where persons not just have food at home, but they're able to make opportunities to help with food for others. Maybe it's a neighbor, maybe it's planting, maybe it's creating products to be exported where they could bring and generate income to Trinidad and Tobago. So that's what I'm thinking, where food security could help in a holistic view of not just food at home, but food that he could carry to other countries and other nations, like our pepper sauce and these things. In our agriculture sector, most of what we export is actually chocolate, some cereals, some Soft drinks is another one.
Which is unhealthy, but
bitters, alcohol, non-alcoholic and alcoholic, and even some agri produce like pineapples, pawpaw, and stuff like that. What we need is, how could we create high value products to be exported instead of it being a low value produce that is exported.
What's a high value product? Give us an example of that.
So we know chocolate is
like
one.
Peppers is
well,
one?
hot peppers. So,
Okay.
all right, let's look at hot peppers. Let's say per ton we're exporting hot peppers maybe at $100 or maybe $1,000 a ton. Let's just speculate, right?
Right.
If we take that same pepper and we add, let's say, pawpaw or pineapple, and we create a beverage or we create a sauce out of it, we are now taking that hot peppers and adding additional value. So it's no longer $1,000. It's now maybe $2,000, $3,000
because of the added ingredients.
Because of the added ingredients. And if we look at creating it in an organic way, a lot of persons around the world are looking at organic, healthy options.
Right.
And we in the Caribbean country, we have that freely.
Yeah.
We have the sun, we have the land, we have all these produce and unique foods that we eat naturally.
Right.
And we take that same idea and package it for tourism, where we could show that products are healthy, organic, and made from local ingredients. What is unique to our country, Trinidad and Tobago, such as the Moruga Hill rice, and the Moruga scorpion pepper. We can create products and chocolate as well. That is actually unique to Trinidad as very high quality. We can now create value where we can export and kind of, I would say, outweigh the imports. A lot of food is imported, and which is actually 7 point something billion.
Yeah.
Where we actually export 3.3
and that
3.6
don't
billion.
make sense. It's making food and it's
Right.
making sense.
So we need to see if we could generate income to come back to Trinidad and Tobago,
Right.
where we could have a high economy.
Some people say that we have all these coconut trees and we could do something with coconut. And I think that's a good idea, you know. In addition to coconut oil,
Right.
I'm very sure we could make something out of whether it's dry coconuts, whether it's the real coconut itself.
So,
I think so.
let's look at a tree. In fact, right, the
Mhm.
entire tree.
Mhm.
Out of the leaves, you can create unique ways to let's say brooms or maybe
And now I was going cookie room.
right. So that's our local thing, right? So we could actually create little medallions where people could come and they buy it, like maybe in the tourist shops, in the airports and stuff. They can see these little unique emblems.
You think we can make clothing out of it?
It could. That is possible as
Something
well.
fancy.
That is possible as well.
Take some leaves and
So we
sew it together.
We're redesigning the Hawaiian skirt.
Yes.
We could create a
2025 in it.
right. We could create a sustainable initiative in Trinidad and Tobago
Yeah.
to look at plants as a source of not just clothing, but maybe shoes. We don't even have a shoe industry in Trinidad and Tobago.
No, you have you're sparking my brain here, you know. Leave shoes? I wear that. I want it in green, please.
Wow.
I want it in green, not in brown.
Just picked. Just picked.
I think we could paint them to whatever colours we
No.
want.
Then it would not be from. I mean, we had to paint it. Why we can't just wear it green?
Well,
yeah.
Some
I
people
don't
who don't like green.
Some
All right,
people don't
fine.
like
I'll
green.
take that. Yeah, I like green.
But something like that, what would be the process to get something like that started?
Like a shoe?
Not only the shoe, but let me say the whole concept of using that coconut tree to build the economy. What are the things that are required to do that?
So we need machinery for sure. We also need skilled laborers. What we do have in Trinidad and Tobago is a lot of creatives, but they're not valued. I've seen a guy create a bowl out of calabash.
I have a calabash bowl home.
I've seen guys at these expos that they have the pop-up shops on them.
Right.
Use different rum bottles and whatever, and they created lamps.
Right.
And yes, I agree we have the innovation, but that is one guy out of 400 who was there. So where's the gap? How do we fill that gap in between?
So what we need is persons, I would call them middlemen, where they could help these entrepreneurs come to the playing field of where do they go with their creative ideas, how they could become an artist, where they could showcase not just the tourists, but the larger crowd of maybe online, or maybe how to create these things, or how to create classes to develop more skilled persons so that you can create an industry. So if you have one skilled person, he can teach more.
Yeah.
Where he can create an industry where maybe it's clothing, it's shoes, maybe it's products itself from coconut alone. There's other plants and medicinal opportunities waiting to happen out of the plants that we eat and drink.
Yeah. Yeah. That sounds like a plan. But hold that plan a bit there for me, Shandell and Malika. We're going to take a quick one and be back. It's Malika. It's Malika Anarion. Malika.
Thank you.
We're going to take a quick one and be back.
Finally
Keep
got
it
it
locked.
correct and you're coasting on
Yeah,
it.
no. I had to pay up. I have to. Guys, keep it locked. It is Freedom 106.5 FM. And this is We the Youth. We will be back.
In a time of promises and politics, only one thing truly matters: your voice, your freedom. As Trinidad and Tobago heads to the polls, Freedom 106.5 FM brings you the clearest conversations, the toughest questions, and real issues affecting your vote. No spin, no fluff, just fearless talk radio, live analysis, and unfiltered voices from every corner of the nation. Stream us live at www.freedom1065.com and follow the discussion on our social media pages at Freedom 106.5 FM, your voice, your freedom, only on Freedom 106.5 FM.
This is my business. This is your business.
protection is everybody business. This is mommy business. This is daddy business. Auntie and uncle business. Child protection is everybody business. If you are aware of child abuse or maltreatment, call the Children's Authority at 996. Save the children.
And welcome back to We the Youth right here on Freedom 106.5 FM, where we're live every day from 3 to 5 p.m. Monday to Friday, where we discuss young people, different sectors in the country, national development. It's a show by the youth, for the youth, and of the youth, Carrie.
Correct. And if you want to be a part of the youth, whether what age you are, you can give us a call, 625-2257 or 627-3223. I'm Carrie V alongside Anarion Mason. And of course, we must say good afternoon to our guests, Malika Paltu and Shandel Paltu. Welcome back, guys.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
So, before the break, we was discussing some very hot topics on how to solve issues. And Malika, I got that correct?
Yes.
See, Carrie, I can do it.
Yeah, because I know prompt here.
Sure. So, Malika, what issues have you been facing, or how are you promoting your business? So, those young people out there, and even those who are not young and maybe having issues with their promotion and getting things off the ground, what advice would you give our listeners today?
I would say don't be afraid. Go after your dream, your goals. I would also say that reach out to persons. There are institutions out there that are willing to help, that are willing to provide grants, provide the necessary resources that you need. And research is one of the most important things. You need to research. And obviously, you need to know yourself. What exactly how do you envision your business? What do you like to achieve in like maybe short-term goals, 3 years to 10 years? What do you hope to achieve? And also be consistent with it.
Okay, so for me, for example, let's say I go out with 10 products to sell, and I go and I sit down by a table in one of these expos where I pay for a table rental and none of my products sell. I coming back home depressed. I want to go and drink some alcohol.
What?
Or maybe I want to give up this whole venture and to hell was really loan and look for an 8-to-5 job. What advice would you tell me at that point in time to say, continue doing what I'm doing?
I will say try a different alternative. If one does not work, try another alternative. I would also say there are persons who you can speak to for advice.
And where do we go to find these people? I'm asking for our listeners.
Yeah, so family members, you can hear their opinions,
Right.
expertise in that particular field. Yeah.
No, but I'm going back to you, Shan. There was always that idea. You said if young people could take their idea and go to someone to help them develop it. But there's always the fear factor of, I don't have enough money to start this business, but if I tell you, you have the money and you could do it and thief my idea. How do we deter young people from that to actually go out and actually seek the advice?
From stealing ideas or?
Yeah, from stealing the ideas. Because let's say, for example, that same coconut dress idea that you want to do.
Yeah, it's mine.
Exactly. Let's assume Carrie doesn't have the money to do it, but I do. And Carrie comes and tell me, hey, Anarion, I want to do this and take over the Hawaiian skate business in Trinidad and do it like this with coconut. And I have the money to go and pay 20-25 persons to start sewing this now. I steal her idea.
But I didn't pattern it, so I mean, yeah. If you, I'll come up with the next one.
So here's a unique idea. There is somebody taught me this, by the way. There's a poor man way to pattern ideas.
What you saying?
I know of it as well.
You know of it.
Well,
Tell me if I'm right or if I'm wrong.
Share the knowledge now.
Go ahead.
So you write it down,
right?
And you go to TT Post and you mail it to yourself and you put it under your bed in a little suitcase or a briefcase or something, and you don't open it.
You don't open it. So that's a poor man pattern, right?
What?
So if you have an idea to create a coconut dress,
it must be dated.
It must be dated. So make sure to write yourself a letter.
I've never heard about that before.
So that's a poor man pattern, right? Now that's a way to keep your idea being yours. So if somebody decides to sue you, you can say this is an unopened letter. This is the date of it when I wrote it, and this was mailed to me. Here's a TT Post stamp of when it was mailed. So that's a poor man pattern,
Wait, so
right?
what validates the letter, the TT Post stamp?
The TT Post stamp and seal.
Right. So even if you don't have a registered business as yet, TT Post actually have this stamp. They are a registered business, so they stamp this. So that shows certification that this was mailed at this date with a stamp of approval.
What?
It's crazy, yes.
It is.
It's crazy.
But
yeah.
I've never heard about that before. But wait, no, what's
So
going
that's
on here?
so right. So the knowledge is there, right? So
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks so much, Chandel, for telling me what to do. Well, I have a lot of letters to write.
Wow. So we have some ideas coming in. So that's one. Coming back to your question, where what could entrepreneurs do in regards to feeling discouraged or discouragement? What I would say is that there are institutions there, and coming back to the idea as well, that persons can always take an idea. The originality of you having the idea will never leave you. So there can always be a copy, but the original idea, the original person who has the idea, that will never be copied or changed in some aspect. Now, I said it's a bit complex there, but let me see if I can break it down. What I'm really seeing is that if one has an original idea and they want to branch off to different versions or different alternatives to it, that is possible. But if somebody were to copy, the timeline of when they copy will always mimic the original rather than being first. So in what I'm trying to say here is that they'll always be second
right.
rather than first. The first person who has the idea, or the idea itself, will always have diversity first rather than to be a copy. So
well, I think I would like, as the originator and the idea, the person who came up with the idea, I would like to know that my idea going out there with me in mind and
Right.
with me being the patented or the owner. I would like that. You understand? I don't really want to know about who's second. I want to be first.
right. So in terms of encouragement as well, the let's say the entrepreneurs are feeling discouraged. There are always persons you can partner with. There's if someone says no, there's always a possibility of a yes somewhere.
Somebody says that all the time. Can't remember who.
I remember this saying from an old friend of mine's. I'm not gonna call her name, but she told me, "Don't let the fear of striking out keep you from playing the game." Now it's a baseball reference, and she is my person from the States, so that I understand that. So I think that is where you're getting at. Don't let the fear of failure keep you down, because at the end of the day, the only time we fail is when we don't get back up.
Right. We have a quote between us that it's a way to push each other, right?
Right.
Many times, let's say late at night, we'll be up just trying to push at where we want to go, and we'll sketch and write business plans, and we'll understand where we want our ideal business to be, right? And most of the time I'll be tired. I'm always ready to tap out. I'm just this sleepy person, right? And one of our quotes we coined is that if I go to sleep now, I wake up broke. Let that sink in for a bit, right? Let that soak.
That making sense. You know. If I go and sleep now, I'll be broke.
I'll wake up. I'll wake up broke.
You'll wake up broke. Well, my eyes are wide open. My eyes are wide open.
No, but at the same time, he's advocating for health and wellness, and you need 8 hours of sleep.
Correct. Whilst you
I'll
might
advocate
need
for
that,
8 hours of sleep every day.
whilst you might need that, you don't want to wake up and you have no money in your pocket.
Right. But here's the thing.
But you don't want
get
to
8
wake up
hours
and
sleep.
you have the money and you don't have the health to use it.
Now, when I can sleep after.
Right, so you can sleep after. So once you get what you need to get done, 8 hours will come after.
Yeah, but come.
So-
Once as long as my pocket full and it's heavy,
Well,
I can
wasn't-
sleep heavy too.
Wow.
You understand?
And also health and exercise as well. Diet and lifestyle will play a
major role.
a major
Right.
factor in that. So let's say you're not getting the sufficient 8 hours of rest, but you're eating healthy and your lifestyle is where you exercise and whatnot. That will contribute a healthier lifestyle in a sense.
And it will contribute to your happiness.
Yeah.
Because your pocket will be full.
Wow.
Filled and heavy.
So it's a holistic approach.
It's a win-win to me.
Yeah.
It's a win-win. So guys, it's just about 4:42. We have to take a break, maybe in about 3 minutes time. But I was coming back to the question of food security to you, Shandell. And I know you mentioned before that you have seen some proposals when it comes to food security. But can you give me about 3 ways on how we as Trinidad and Tobago can improve our food security?
So I'll give you 3. The first one I'll say is that plant. Just being at home, being able to have a home garden.
Everybody have a home garden now, no?
Well,
after COVID.
Well, some persons are actually lacking. I've seen some persons home garden and it's just dying.
It doesn't have no water. It doesn't have no water for them to water the plants. But and shout out to my mommy. Mommy, the plant need to water, please. Go ahead.
She waters it. So just having a home garden. So that's a good thing that during COVID we did a lot of home gardening.
Yeah.
Continue with that aspect. The other thing too is that understanding what you have and what you could do with it. That helps with food security. For example, I'll say, let's say you do have carrots at home.
Right.
Or other seasonings. Let's say, this is something I do actually. I would buy chive, I have onions, garlic, pimento. Basic seasoning, right? And I would have it there freshly, maybe in the fridge, and it's there ready to be cut into maybe peas or whatever it is I'm cooking at the time. It comes a time where maybe after 3 days or 1 week it's there and it's going to wither.
Right.
What I'll do, I'll break it down into a seasoning where I could preserve it longer. So it's no longer 3 days. It's now lasting maybe a week or 2.
Oh.
So that's a good way to have food security. Instead of wastage, we could utilize it.
Right. Is it just like for persons who planting, right? Like who have plants, they take some of the leftover vegetables and they throw it into a compost bowl or something like that, they call it. Is it like that?
Well, no.
Not like that.
No. So what I'm aiming at here is that preservation of food. So the first one is having a home garden. The second one is that, let's say you have chive or chives, right? You pick this, you have it in the fridge or you have it in a body of water and you just keeping it there at home. It has a shelf life now.
Right.
After you picked it or after you harvest it, it may last 3 days before it wilts or start to break down. Right. Now, if you blend it and you add other maybe carrots or pimentos and so forth to make green seasoning, you now add from that 3 days of being expired, you now add shelf life where it could last a week or 2.
Wow, got you there. So listen, stick a pin in that for me, Shandell. We're gonna take a break. It's just about 4:45. If you're now joining us, good afternoon and welcome. Freedom 106.5 FM, and this is We the Youth. We're gonna take a quick break and be back with your calls. So don't forget, give us a call. 625-2257 or 627-3223. We'll be back.
Who will win the April 28th general election?
Who is the preferred leader for TNT?
How will the marginals swing?
Who will take Tobago?
And which political party is most popular with voters?
Be sure to grab a copy of your TNT Guardian newspaper. Watch on CNC3 News, follow us on digital, and tune into the TBC Radio Network for details of the soon-to-be-released Guardian Media Public Opinion Poll, conducted by respected pollster and political scientist Professor Hamid Ghani. The TNT Guardian, CNC3, and the TBC Radio Network, your election headquarters for the 2025 general election.
Poll results starting Sunday, April 20th.
In a time of promises and politics, only one thing truly matters: your voice, your freedom. As Trinidad and Tobago heads to the polls, Freedom 106.5 FM brings you the clearest conversations, the toughest questions, and real issues affecting your vote. No spin, no fluff, just fearless talk radio, live analysis, and unfiltered voices from every corner of the nation. Stream us live at www.freedom1065.com and follow the discussion on our social media pages at Freedom 106.5 FM. Your voice, your freedom. Only on Freedom 106.5 FM.
When we come together for a common cause, we do more than help. We move a nation because united is the way. This year, volunteer with your company for United Way's Day of Caring on Sunday, May 18th to create lasting change. One school, one child, one community at a time. Or donate towards this cause at uwtt.com. It isn't just today. It's a movement for a stronger, more caring Trinidad and Tobago. United is the way. Find out more at uwtt.com.
The following is a paid political announcement.
TNT, we're inviting you to join us as we write a new chapter with Prime Minister Stuart Young. On Tuesday, April 22nd, St. Joseph, the People's National Movement, will be having a public meeting at Nyabingi's Bar, Corner King and Abercrombie Street. On Wednesday, April 23rd, St. James, meet us at Corner Bournes Road and Church Street. Then on Thursday, April 24th, Sangre Grande, meet us at the PTSE Terminal. Hear from our chairman, Prime Minister the Honorable Stuart Young, and a lineup of powerful speakers. St. Joseph, see you on Tuesday, April 22nd. St. James, see you on Wednesday, April 23rd. Sangre Grande, see you on Thursday, April 24th. All meetings start at 6:30 p.m. This is a new chapter for TNT. We're red, ready, and responsible. On April 28th, vote PNM. Great is the PNM.
That was a paid political announcement.
Now, a station that's giving you back the power to speak your mind. The all-new talk radio, Freedom 106.5.
Welcome back, Freedom 106.5 FM. I am here with right, let me see, mic check on your side, Chandel?
Yes.
Alright, try me back again.
Yes.
Mic check?
Yes.
Right, mic check?
Yeah.
Nice, good to go. I just wanted to make sure that we had the mics correctly. Carrie V is here and Anarion just stepped out. This is We the Youth and we are speaking all innovation, all economy. And I'm here with Malika Paltu and Shandel Paltu. So let's get back at it. You were talking about the circle of life for plants?
No, it's called full circle economy.
Full circle economy, yes. So let's
Right.
get into that.
So, as I was saying before, that food at home should be preserved in many ways, right? So let's say we do have a home garden and we do know how to preserve food to make it or to have it at a longer shelf life. The next thing is that let's say we do have food waste,
Right.
food scraps, where we could create maybe soil to go back into the plant.
Creating soil.
Yes. So let's say we have food cuttings where we could add it into like a waste bin or a part of compost. Correct.
Right.
That's a compost bin.
Right.
Where we could add it back to the plant. Now, there's two ways you could add it back. Some of the food cuttings, they actually create this liquid. It's a liquid of nitrogen and H2. Well, let me don't say big, but there's some water components with healthy nutrients and minerals for plants.
Right.
So it's either you have the dry compost and the wet compost, which is the liquid, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now these things can be added back to the plant to help build and boost nutrients so that they can produce healthy fruits or vegetables.
Right.
Depends on what you have, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now that is one aspect. Having food security at home, that is one. The second, that was just one point. So that's called full circle economy, where
full circle economy.
Correct. Where you take the food from the garden, you process it in whatever way you're comfortable to add to shelf life, and then you could now take the same food scraps and add it back to the plant. So the plant gives and receives.
And
so
it goes like the circle, the
it's
cycle.
a circle.
Ah,
A cycle, right?
Sound like it?
Full circle economy, they call it, right?
Right.
The second initiative I would say is that we need to have proper funding for farmers, because we need development of equipment to make it faster and to be able to have opportunity to export what we have and to also feed our nation. So we need investments in that aspect, and we also need educational I wouldn't say just a program, but educational incentives where the farmers could learn new and advanced ways to produce food in organic scale and also at mass production.
Right.
So those are two, and well, the educational that's the third one that we
Right.
need to have investment in.
Food security in Anarion.
Yeah, I mean, I've been listening in. I'm excited.
You excited about it?
Yes, I am. Because if we reduce our food import bill and we change the culture in Trinidad and Tobago to stop Americanizing things and support local.
But that's then we have to change our mindset.
Right, so we change the culture. There's a culture shift. Because the majority of the stuff that comes in to the country outside of the potatoes and the onions and the bananas and things is processed foods that are Americanized. So 90% of the cornflakes on our shelves are not local cornflakes. And you'll quicker go and pick up a different brand of cornflakes as opposed to one of our local brands.
Well, yeah, true.
Because you see the commercials on TV or on social media behind it.
Right.
So by changing that and building out a support local campaign, I think we could reduce that import.
But you think that could change with our generation? I don't think so. I think that has to start with my children, or possibly my children. Possibly.
I think it would change actually, because there's a lot of health implications happening. There's a lot of allergies, ADHD.
But how we getting people on board?
No, right. So the UN SDGs goal number 1, 2, and 3 deals with health, fitness, lifestyle, zero poverty, health and well-being, and those things. And young people, especially the Zs and the Alphas, are very much inclined towards those UN SDGs and different things like that. And by them advocating and raising their voice for wanting certain things, it will be easier and better to get rid of that mindset. It'll be easy to do that paradigm shift. And yeah, so what about you? What do you think? What are your 3 recommendations or solutions for the healthcare sector? Nursing and lifestyle, to be exact.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah?
Yeah, you could go ahead.
I would say 3 ways you asked me to improve the nursing healthcare.
Yeah, nursing, and what's the 3 solutions you see?
I would say listen to the people. Listen to what nurses have to say are the issues that they are facing.
Right.
And once solutions can be put into place for that, nurses will feel more valued in their field of work. I would also say implement more educational system in a sense where youths can be more exposed to the healthcare, because not many people know exactly what nursing entails. Most of them probably just know nurses give injections or
Yeah,
but
like me. I would think that.
but nursing is actually a holistical view. When a patient comes in, you are dealing with a life, right? So it actually affects mental, emotional, spiritual. So that holistical view and approach that needs to take into consideration. And my last point, I would say, create a better system. A system where nurses feel welcome, nurses feel loved, nurses feel heard, and where we can better provide care that the patient needs.
Okay.
I want to add something to that, Malika. I want to add and make it easily accessible to get jobs in the nursing sector.
Because there are nurses who they have passed their nursing council examination, both practical and theory, and they're still home waiting for a job.
They're still home waiting for a job.
Yeah, and we need nurses. We definitely need nurses.
Wow.
Well, Carrie, I'd like to thank both our guests, Shandell and Malika.
Malika. You know what? I'm going to write it down and stick it on your forehead. Just like that.
How I go see it if you stick
when
it?
you go in the mirror.
Thank you both, Mr. and Mrs. Paltu.
Okay, we could work with that.
Right, that better?
Yes, it is.
Wow.
Right, thank you for joining us and being a part of the conversation. We do hope to have you back at some point in time to continue this because I don't think we're finished as yet. Carrie, I want you to get excited.
Excited about planting?
About planting?
Not going in the hot sun though. I'm not into that.
No. There are rooms that you can plant in. You could plant
in AC or?
Yeah.
Okay, alright, I'll take that.
Your microgreens.
Is that true, Chandel?
What's that?
Planting in an AC room? AC filled room? You see? Look, he's stuttered.
There's actually there's in the US and in the UK there are possibilities, but they use light, infrared lights, they use blue lights, they use a lot of technology.
Okay, fine. You know what? All right, fine, no problem. I'll try it. Okay, Anarion? Okay,
well
Chandel?
done.
I'll try it. So, guys, I want to thank you for joining us today and thank you for gracing us with your presence here on We the Youth. And, of course, as Anarion mentioned, we'll have you guys back again so that we can hear updates on the stuff that you are doing, especially when it comes to food security and the nursing sector. So I want to thank you for joining us and have a good one.
Thank you for having us.
Right?
Yeah,
and
man.
be sure to join us tomorrow at 3 to 5
Same
p.m.
time.
where we're discussing our climate, our care, healing people and planets.
Thanks so much. So, guys, that was We the Youth. Thank you so much going out to our guests, Malika Paltu and Chandel Paltu. 5 p.m. news is next, courtesy JTA Supermarket.
Expression is who we are. Take control. The all-new Talk Radio. Freedom 106.5. Speak your mind.